Welcome to Elder Savvy. I'm Anna Seery, the Director of Pembroke Council on Aging. The goal of Elder Savvy is to provide content-related topics from experts in the community to enhance the quality of life of our seniors. My guests today are Liz Jacobs, Client Service Manager, and Grace Doherty, Community Relations Coordinator from Senior Helpers. Senior Helpers is a non-medical home care agency with a strong focus on quality of life for the client and peace of mind for their families, specializing in Alzheimer's and dementia care. Senior Helpers connect caring professional caregivers with seniors, providing a wide range of both personal and companion care to assist seniors living independently at home where they are most comfortable. They also work in conjunction with VNA and hospice services to assure an all-inclusive care team. Today with Liz and Grace, I am going to explore the Senior GEMS Alzheimer's and Dementia program developed by Senior Helpers and Teepa Snow, an occupational therapist and dementia care specialist with over 30 years of experience. I understand you have a specialized Alzheimer's and dementia care program. Could you tell me a little more about that?
Sure, absolutely. Our Senior GEMS program, which is the name of the program itself, really is the basis of what our focus is in home care.
Can I interrupt you for one
Sure.
minute? I think we have for our teleprompter Senior GEMS. Perfect. That's just what we're
Absolutely.
looking for.
So this really is what we base our care off of. We specialize in caring for those with Alzheimer's and dementia, and so we needed to have a program that really would help to guide us through and fully understand what the transitions are with Alzheimer's and dementia. So the Senior GEMS program was created by Senior Helpers and Teepa Snow to provide a better foundation for a better knowledge and depth in understanding the progression of dementia. Offers an appropriate and positive approach so that we're focusing on what these individuals' needs really still are and what their capabilities still are, and not focusing on what the losses are and what they're no longer able to do. So it really helps us to understand, helps our caregivers to provide the best possible care, and also helps the family members to really best be able to interact with their loved ones. And we really just create an all-inclusive team all around to really best understand that.
Can you explain a little more about the program?
Sure, absolutely. So the GEMS program itself is a focus on how to break down what the transition is with Alzheimer's and dementia. A more clinical version of this method would be a numerical system, which is, as they're transitioning from stage to stage, really putting a number with it, say stage 1 through 6. It doesn't give enough flexibility. It's really very black and white that way, not understanding that as an individual is transitioning through the stages of dementia, they could really be anywhere at any given time. So with the GEMS program itself, it recognizes the dynamic nature of the human brain and how it can change from moment to moment. It acknowledges the abilities that these individuals have and how to best to continue to support what those abilities are, really keeping that positive focus. Modifying environment, situations, and approach types can be very positive, and we can see great progression with that. But also if we make the changes in the wrong way, unfortunately we can see the opposite happen, and they really don't have the success that they could have. So with that, just as gemstones, each gemstone needs a different setting, and they need a different type of care to really show their truest values. And so we need to associate that with these precious humans that we're working with. So that is where these gems do come into play. So we go through from the beginning, it's sapphire, diamond, emerald, amber, ruby, and pearl. And that's the natural progression when we're looking at the progression of Alzheimer's dementia. So if we go through the gems kind of step by step, we can start with the sapphire, which is what we call the true blue. This is what we consider to be normal aging. This is you and I on any given day, where we typically are able to function very well. But we have bad days where our memory may not be the greatest. We may be forgetful at times or struggle with things that we can normally do pretty well. In an individual who is at this stage at times can be blue because they are realizing that there are some changes going on, not quite considering this to be true dementia yet. With the sapphire, still very much able to make their own choices and need to be able to continue to feel that they're able to make those choices in their life, not having somebody else taking over for them. When we turn to a diamond, which is what we consider to be the first true stage of dementia, this is where we see the first signs. Diamonds can very much do their old habits and their own routines, and that's what they prefer to do. They don't really adjust well with changes. You and I can learn how to use a new style of a cell phone or an iPad. So we like what we know, but we're able to adjust. With a diamond, starting to lose that ability to adjust a little bit. And with that, diamonds need to be able to be in control. And they need to feel highly valued, just like we all value a diamond. They can be rigid and they can be inflexible at times, but there are many facets, just again, like a diamond, really kind of changing everything back to these gems. The best things with diamonds is allowing them to continue to have that sense of control. And allow them to have that value. Don't feel like they're having their life taken over, which can be difficult when you're first introducing home care into somebody's life. So as we continue to transition into an emerald, with an emerald, green means go. This is kind of a forward motion. Everything is kind of coming out. Emotions can run a little rampant here. This is where they're getting lost in their past life, past roles, past places, and those emotions can come up quickly, whether it is tying back to emotions of their childhood or where they're seeing some confusion and really, it's really hitting them quickly. Losing important things, thinking people have stolen them, and so once again, having a caregiver in their home, it can be difficult. If they're misplacing an item, they have a stranger, or what initially seems like a stranger in their home, and so it's easy for them to turn quickly to that. So with an emerald, familiar tasks, engaging in an activity where they're working along with the caregiver who may be in their home. At this point, the caregiver needs to take on that friendship role. This is not a boss working with someone underneath them. There need to be a sense of equality there. Continuing on with that transition and turning into an amber. When we think of the color of an amber, it's that warm, soft glow. It's about sensation. In amber is it's all about textures. It's how do things smell, feel, look, taste, and so with that, it's touching items, having something to hold in their hands. This is where with that and having to have those sensations, sometimes an amber may start to get into things, rifling through objects, or this is where you need to kind of start to look around the environment and make sure that you're keeping things appropriately safe without really having it inappropriate where it's too bare of an environment. So with amber, it's giving them objects to manipulate. This is where we have great activities with either knitting or crocheting, sorting items, putting puzzles together, things along those lines, where they're really able to get that sensory input through their senses themselves. And this is also with sounds in the environment. You don't want too many sounds going on at once. You want to keep it soft and keep it enjoyable. So continuing on with the transition, we're looking at a ruby. And when we look at the color of a ruby, it's red, and red means stop. This is where we're starting to see that fine motor skills are beginning to be lost. The ability to start or stop a forward motion might come into play here. This is where normally they're only able to go maybe in one direction or another, which you start to see that in ambulation a lot. With a ruby, walking routine paths, this is where you might see an individual who may be pacing around a lot. And it's good to be able to allow them to do that, because it's getting out their energy and allowing them to feel like they've completed whatever that task is. So also with a ruby, this is where kind of tying back a little bit into the emerald, a lot of tactile things to pick up, things to hold. You might see an individual carrying their purse or a stuffed animal, something along those lines. It can be comforting to them. Mm-hmm. Gives them something to hold on to, so they're not then going into a lot of what are those other areas that maybe aren't so safe for them anymore. And then lastly, when we're looking at the last stage here, oftentimes this is referred to be end stage, we're looking at a pearl. And a pearl is clouded and soft and hidden within a shell. And so with a pearl, they're really not so much, they're within their own world at this point, not as much aware of the outside world. So they're inside that shell. So like you think of this beautiful pearl that's inside the oyster shell. And the physical movements at this point are minimalized. A lot of this, again, is about softness and being gentle, being able to kind of open up that shell and really get that individual to come back out, because they are still in there. And unfortunately, it can be difficult to see at times now. And so with that, it's warm environments, it's soft approaches, being very gentle with the care. Sometimes can be lost a little bit, need to be able to stay connected with that human.
So do you do assessments and let your caregivers know and family members know what stage you think they're in, so that gives them a little bit of help to figure out where they are?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And what to expect?
Yeah, so when I'm first meeting these individuals, I'm going out and I'm performing an assessment really to get an understanding of what the abilities are and where this individual may stand. Oftentimes the families either are just realizing that there's a transition going on, it's either a new diagnosis, or maybe have never quite seen the changes for what they may truly be. So there's an educational piece to it, getting them to understand sort of what their loved one is going through and how they're processing the information themselves. And so with that, we can use this tool, we provide this to a lot of these individuals so that they can help to pinpoint it themselves. But then also, as we're talking to our families, talking to our caregivers about the struggles they may be having with these individuals, we can use some of the tips and some of the interests that these individuals have to help to really kind of bring that quality back to their life.
And the training we have for our caregivers focuses on the whole, and then individually, as progressions continue with clients, they have specific training for each of the gems, so a sapphire or a diamond or an emerald. So if they are working with a client that has transitioned, they have an overview of it, but then we have additional training that helps them to work with them in that state, in that gem period.
So the awareness of what the individual is going through and maybe how to approach them, redirect them, the behavioral changes that come with dementia or Alzheimer's.
Correct. And then the techniques and skills to work with them while they're in that gem state that will help them succeed, because it's all about making sure they're comfortable and they are successful during that period of time. What they can do, not what they can no longer do.
Right. So this program was created by a woman named Teepa Snow.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about her and how she came about developing this program with your company?
Sure, absolutely. Teepa is an amazing individual on so many levels. She is a mastered prepared occupational therapist. She's also a dementia care specialist. And she has over 30 years of experience, both on the clinical side through research and teaching, but also through her own personal experience. She's also had experience with her own families in working with dementia. And so she has put together a variety of programs or variety of tools, really, to be able to apply what she has learned with how we care for these individuals in their homes, whatever that environment may be. And so what she does, or what she has done in general to really create this fabulous tool, is she has taken on a lot of what is understood in the clinical setting as far as what brain functions are and what the changes in the brain are as there is this progression of dementia, which a lot of people really don't understand, because the average person is seeing the physical changes of the person themselves on the outside in what their behavioral changes are, and not really understanding how to connect that to what the disease itself is. So Teepa connects that together. It really creates these tools so that people can understand when a certain area of the brain is changing, how that is affecting what the individual's abilities are, and how do we go about changing our approach so we can continue to support that. whether it's their eyesight is affected or their ability to taste foods, their fine motor skills with manipulating objects, ambulation, and it goes on and on from there. So TIPA has created a number of tools, a number of programs that have put this together. She specially selected senior helpers to create the Senior GEMS program itself. So this is something that we base our focus in our approach on, and so that's something that TIPA has selected us for. But she also has her own projects that she has put together herself. She doesn't only work with senior helpers. But she has put together the positive approach to care in general, which is great techniques and models to really follow along with in order to apply the care that she has really taught and created itself. So she's a wonderful individual. I've had the opportunity to meet her myself many times. So yeah.
She's very dynamic. I took a
she
class
certainly
with her
is.
also, so
She
yes,
is.
she teaches well, she engages her audience or who she's teaching very well, and she's very passionate about her mission.
She
and
is. It's amazing
educating.
how she can get you to really understand whatever area she happens to be talking about. She can transform herself to become that individual that she's trying to represent, and it really gets you to have a full understanding of exactly what it is that she's trying to put across.
And Senior Helpers has put together a DVD that TIPA Snow is on. It's her DVD, 40 minutes, and it talks about the Senior GEMS, but it also visits the journey to the brain and all the things that are going on. So it's her on the DVD. So you get to see who she is, how she works, and how she teaches, and her story about the Alzheimer's and dementia Senior GEMS.
Before I came to Pembroke Council on Aging, I worked over at what is now Beth Israel Deaconess Plymouth on the Senior Behavioral Health Center. So the majority of our patients that came into us were at some point in the continuum of dementia or Alzheimer's. Generally coming to senior behavioral health, it was kind of in a behavioral crisis at that point. But we did do a lot of first-time diagnosis, you know, and really the family work was fabulous in educating the family. You know, they were so appreciative because it's so confusing, and it's a very slow progression in the beginning. So a lot of times I find that people, you just come to accommodate and accept.
You do,
We're getting
make
older,
excuses.
you know, especially when it's a spousal caregiver or an adult child caregiving. You know, and to try to explain those stages and what's going on, you know, is really important. And within this, there's also critical stages, and you know, it's concerning about caregiver burden. You know, always, you know, how do you support the spouse that's the caregiver? How do you support the family member that's the caregiver? And education, to me, was such an important factor. But you know, one of the turning points in caregiver burden, you know, and able to caregive in the home, always kind of was around incontinence. That was also a big turning point with when the automatic body systems were all starting to change. What incontinence, where does that fall within your GEMS?
Well, it really, again, looking at it on a very individual basis, this could be something, it could have been a pre-existing condition from other illnesses as well. So it can make it a little difficult to pinpoint. But a lot of times it's when we're starting to see some changes in what their muscular function is, where we're starting to see a lot of the motor skill loss. So usually we're looking, you know, it could be anywhere between an emerald to a ruby, really. Again, it's the individual. So it's very difficult to really pinpoint it, especially, like I said, when there are some pre-existing conditions as well, where to kind of really pinpoint that down. But seeing a lot of those changes can help us to truly understand, while somebody may be changing from time to time, where they're kind of based as far as within the range.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I've heard it said when you've met somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia, you've met one person with Alzheimer's and dementia. This is everything that could potentially happen, and it does, but that it doesn't always happen to the one person at the same time as it happens to another. So as you were saying, individual. It's all, you know, per person, this is a great guide because it does give you some idea of what's going to happen, what's happening. However, every individual is different in where they are at any specific time.
And it depends too on other comorbid diseases,
Right.
you know,
It does.
to the health of the person, the environment that they're living in, how
Environment, sure.
simple it is or how difficult it is.
What their support base is in the
Right,
background. You were
right.
talking a lot about the caregiver burden. Oftentimes when I'm initiating the relationship with the family, this is where you're seeing not only the caregiver burden, but oftentimes the caregiver burnout, where they have been caring so much for their loved one, but sometimes, especially if there hasn't been an official diagnosis, there are a lot of frustrations there, which oftentimes are unavoidable because you can personalize it. A lot of times we're having difficulties with a loved one not realizing what it is that they themselves are going through. Which is another thing that TIPA does really well, is when you start to learn exactly how this individual is processing the environment around them and what life is like for them. That's where you really start to understand how these approaches really do work for them.
Really do work.
Yeah.
How about end of life? You know, I mean, your goal is keeping people in their homes,
It is.
which is more and more, everyone's goal is to remain in their home. But when you get to that critical end of life stage, you've built really good relationships with your families, but do you also bring in hospice or, you know, refer out to hospice?
Absolutely.
You do.
We work in conjunction with VNA services, hospice, and in a variety of different services that may either have already been existing in the individual's life in their care. So either we're being brought in after them or we're transitioning along with that individual and just sort of pointing out to the families when we're starting to see some of these needs. And we work with a variety of different organizations where we'll make suggestions either for them to make their own choice, or if they're not educated enough on what their options are, we can make sure that they understand what those are. And so hospice will come in and provide what that nursing care, that hospice care need is. But at that point, those individuals are going to need that round-the-clock care, and that's where we come in to provide that. My role then helps to be that communicator between the services, the family, the individual, and the caregivers to make sure we understand care needs, medication changes, things along those lines. So just to keep everything, you know, smooth and help to make sure the individual is getting exactly what they need.
Quality of life. We spoke with a hospice recently, and it was showing life while dying, not dying with life. So it really makes a difference to have individuals who know how to take care of that person, help the family know how to take care of that person, so that, you know, the end of life isn't as traumatic as it potentially could be without those supports in place.
It's a lot of why I love my job so much, is because I can help to make sure that this can kind of continue to go on, and it's more than just the specific care. It's really helping to kind of wrap it all together.
So if there's folks out here who are watching this program and are thinking, oh, you know, as they described these gems, they're kind of talking to me, is there any way that they can access this information to this GEMS program? And I know you said you have a CD.
We do. It's a DVD.
A DVD.
There's lots of valuable resources that, with Alzheimer's and dementia, the GEMS program that we have individually, senior helpers, seniorhelpers.com, TIPA Snow, and also the DVD is made available to anybody, to the community, to anybody who wants it, at no cost. It's available. Sometimes it's one person that gets it, and they leave it for the rest of the family to look at. I think it opens up your eyes to see that maybe there is something going on. Maybe, yes, this is what it is, and that you're not alone. There is help out there, but there is also an understanding that, oh, this isn't, you know, mom doing this because mom's doing this because she wants to. Mom doesn't have a choice. And so I think we have DVD, we have the quick reference guide, and some other support, paperwork, and information that could help just as they go along.
So is it possible for me to get, I'm wrapping this up
Yes.
quickly, we just have a little bit of time left.
Sure.
Is it possible for me to get a DVD to put in our lending library at the Council on Aging? So
absolutely.
if any of the residents, said this was interesting, I want to learn a little more about this.
Yeah, we can give you
Also
quite a
looks
few.
like a really good conversation starter for families.
It is an amazing conversation starter.
To be able to sit and just look at these bullets and discuss it in and amongst themselves of what they're seeing. I just know that to clarify for our folks out there, we keep saying Teepa Snow. I just want them to know that her name is spelled T-E-E-P-A
Yes.
S-N-O-W, in
Correct.
case they do want to Google that
Correct.
and look up more
And
information.
teepasnow.com is her
Okay.
website.
Okay.
And Senior Helpers /South Shore is our website. And our telephone number is 781-421-3123. And anybody can call. If they want information, they want us to send them a DVD or any information, have any
Excellent.
questions.
Thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
me. This
Thank
time
you.
went really quick.
It did.
It did. It did.
It's such a needed information.
Well, hopefully the education will help even a few people to understand a little bit more.
stages.
The
More than
stages.
happy to share with anybody who is interested.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Thank you.